Yeah, and welcome on a lesson on how to use mixing major and minor pentatonic in your rhythm playing, right? Something you might not have thought of. My name is Brett Papa, or Pop Stash, as some of you might know me. I'm not exactly have one right now, but it's in training. It's coming back, and luckily with my genes, it takes about 3 days. So anyways, stash aside. A lot of us, when it comes to soloing, and using major and minor pentatonic, that's like the only place we think about it. And we forget the hundreds, if not thousands, of songs that we've heard through our life, be it Hendrix, Southern rock, all sorts of rock, country, all over the place, just rock and roll in general, where people are using the major and minor pentatonic scales together to help in their songwriting or to make it more creative, right? So an example of that is... missed a note, but you know, don't get mad at me. The correct phrase would have been there it is. All right, so but my point being, I'm using major and minor pentatonic together to get that. Now, if you want me to break it down, here's A major pentatonic, an A minor pentatonic. Now, all I'm doing is I'm taking notes of both of those scales and I'm applying them together to get, you know, some options, right? So we got here a note out of minor. I got my A chord right here and I reached to a minor note. So we got... Then I went into my A major pentatonic scale to my A chord, and then I went back into the major and minor pentatonic, same notes but in reverse. So here I use major and minor. Here I use major and minor. Went back into my major, or my minor rather, this G note. And suddenly I have a transitional riff, right? So you got... So, you know, it's not exactly as smooth as I've wanted it to be for a lesson, but you get the point. I can work it up and make it polished in a minute, but I'll do that after the video. So right now I'm just trying to give you ideas, okay? So you can expand upon that, like a lot of times when you hear Hendrix. That's another example of mixing major and minor pentatonic. We have our A chord here again. We're using our A minor scale. So I'm actually putting my A major chord over my A minor pentatonic scale. And what that does is that allows me to access this major third right here. Okay, so far A minor. Right? So then I dive into major and minor right there, and I'm actually just outlining my D and C chords, okay, by hitting these two double stops, both on the 7th fret, G and B, and the 5th fret. And then I go to that minor third to major third. Now right there, I actually just filled in the gaps. I'm using the minor pentatonic scale right here, but I just filled in the gaps, and that's something totally legal too. That's also called chromatic playing, where it's basically, you know, you're just filling in the notes right in a row. There's no scale that they're following. So you can mix all that, and I think when you hear major and minor pentatonic together, a lot of what you hear is, yes, major and minor put together, but also chromatics thrown in there. You get sort of a composite scale of all of them together, but it gives you an endless supply of ideas both in your soloing and in rhythm. So right, that's the Hendrix approach, or like the Southern rock approach. Right, same riff. Right, where we did 4, 5 on the A. Come hit one of the notes out of my A chord. It can be either the D2 or G2. Right? Then I go 3, 4 on the A. Back to one of those notes, and then I can do a little pull here to the open A. I can do that same thing here. You're picking one of those minor notes, right? Do the same pull here or here. 3 on the A or 3 on the E, both pulling off to an open string. Or, okay? So those are just examples. Now, say you have other chords. You can do the same thing when you go up to that D, and then down to the G, the C. Right? Now, also things that you might have heard are when you start doing these sixth style riffs. Right? Now, those are just breaking into parts of chords, okay? Taking, right? And you're going up the scale and you're picking out notes that, you know, are part of the chords in an A major progression, but they work sort of in that. Right? You can walk down. And you're mixing the major and minor pentatonics again. So that would be part of an A chord right here. Right? So I'm walking down to another A chord. Right? And I'm using my pentatonic scale. Right? Right here. And then. Right? But that works over a minor progression as well. Right there, I mixed all together, which could be either a major or minor progression because I'm using a C, a D, and an E, but I'm using 5 chords, which is just the root and the fifth. So that opens us up, right, to being able to. And so write a little transitional riff. I got my right octave. This is all kind of A major, and then back to mixing major and minor pentatonic as a transitional riff back to the 1 or wherever you're at in your progression. So those are just a couple of examples. I get into all sorts of soloing major and minor pentatonic on the site, so check that out on Papa Stash 102 where you're seeing this. If you haven't checked the channel though, tons and tons of exploration into this topic. But don't always think about soloing. Rhythm, songwriting, that is the vehicle that really gets people. You can be a great soloist. Obviously, always work on your soloing technique and your craft because, you know, when it comes time to solo, it's good to have some chops, right? But don't forget about rhythm and being able to use little lines, little lead lines like that in your songs for little transitional riffs or a way to add excitement. If you got 2 guitar players, it's great because you can do those rhythmic riffs on top of that kind of stuff and just add a little bit. You can build the tension, right? One guy's holding down the 4. that sort of stuff, and you're the... right, and going and using those kind of riffs, you know, to kind of add excitement so the listener doesn't get bored. So check that out. I'll go into more of this kind of stuff. If you want to see more of this kind of stuff, let me know in the comments below, and I will explore it further. Also, you can always, you know, check out and list, you know, song ideas or whatever. Sometimes if you're listing solos, sometimes I can't do huge long solos, but like Red House, minutes 140 to 156. I can't figure out the riff. What is it? So throwing out anything, I will get to stuff as soon as you can. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you next time.